What's up, guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 2016 BMW 340i xDrive. Up front is a 3.0-liter turbocharged inline 6, and down below is an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited to be driving this here 340i for a couple of reasons. First of all, I recently reviewed the BMW M3 of this generation, so we'll be comparing it a lot to that vehicle. As well as, it's just always nice to be back in a BMW. This is one of my favorite brands. I think most of the cars that I've driven from BMW have been hits rather than misses, and that can't be said about all manufacturers. But before we get on to anything else, I have a website, zackpradel.com, where you can buy stickers like this retro sticker pack I have available, or Big Friggin' Bottle sticker, both with free shipping. You could also submit your own vehicle to be reviewed by me through a quick and easy submission form, and you could read my behind the scenes blog to see what I'm filming before it comes out on the channel. But let's get back to that inline 6 turbo under the hood. Well, it makes 322 horsepower from the factory. Now, this car has had some added goodies done to it, so it's making a little bit more than that. However, 322 horsepower is definitely very, very good. Yeah, that's good. It sounds so good too. Of course, this car, excuse me. Of course, this car does have an exhaust done to it, but boy, is it fun. Now, this is the B58 inline 6 from BMW, which also comes in the new Toyota Supra. However, the Supra makes a little bit more horsepower from the factory, essentially the same engine. Like I said, paired to it is an 8-speed automatic transmission. It is a ZF transmission, and I really like it. This has a transmission tune on it, and I'll talk more about it with the final thoughts segment, what I think of it, but it is very snappy, very responsive, and I love it. Last but not least, this is the xDrive version, so it is all-wheel drive. With that out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 4 very typical BMW gauges. On the left is my fuel and speed, then on the right is my tachometer and oil temperature. I also do get a little digital readout down in the gauge cluster, really helpful there. And on the steering wheel, on the left, I have my cruise control options, and on the right, I have my voice commands, volume, mode, and phone options. As well as around the back, I do have paddle shifters, which are fantastic. I love the overall look and feel of the steering wheel. I do think that it is very nice, and it's nice and thin. I love the fact that in the mid-2010s, cars were starting to move back towards thin steering wheels, a trend that we still see today. Off to the left, I do have a climate control vent and my headlight switches, of course, and on the door, I have my power mirrors and power windows. Moving into the center, we do have the iDrive infotainment system. I'm not a huge fan of it. I've grown to get used to it more and more over the years, and as I film more and more vehicles with this system, I learn to deal with it and live with it. However, it's not my favorite. It does have a backup camera, which is a little bit dated. However, this is a 6-year-old vehicle, so not the end of the world, and somewhat to be expected. Down below that infotainment system, we do have 2 climate control vents, our central locking, and our hazard switch. Then we do have our radio buttons for mode, AM and FM, and then our favorites as well. These favorite buttons are great because BMW allows you to set them to things other than just your favorite radio stations, whether that be a navigational point or vehicles with Apple CarPlay. It will take you directly to CarPlay or things like that, so you can kind of customize these favorite buttons, which is fantastic. Then we do have the climate controls. I get dual zone climate as well as heated seats. Nothing too out of the ordinary there. And then we do have a little cubby and 2 cup holders. So we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the BMW 340i. And unfortunately it fails. I expect that out of a BMW like this. Here's a list of other BMWs I've tested the big friggin' bottle in. And so you can kind of see where the 340i stacks up. Then we move to around the shifter. First of all, the shifter itself is kind of interesting, kind of feels like a joystick, and you have park as a button, and then reverse, neutral, drive, and sport are all different movements of the shifter. It's kind of weird because the shifter goes back to the center. I'm not a big fan of it. However, I've learned to live with it in the cars that I've driven. Off to the left, we have our drive modes. So I have traction control off up at the top. There's two different versions of traction control off. You turn it off once and it says, okay, yeah, we'll dumb it down a little bit. But then when you hold it, that's when it really turns the traction control off and leaves you to your own devices, which, if that's something you want, you can do. Then we do have our drive modes. So we have Eco, Comfort, Sport, and Sport Plus. As you go up the chain, it gets more and more aggressive, with Sport Plus being the most active and driver-oriented mode. Then I do have a camera button, which is very nice. When you are parked or at slow speeds, you can actually take a look at your cameras. Then I get my parking sensors on and off. Off to the right, I do have my little selector dial for the xDrive system. I've always praised BMW for this. They feel fantastic. They have a very notchy, clicky analog feel when you do move them around, which is really nice. Then I get at my handbrake and center console. Nothing really to write home about with them. However, it's nice that you get both. The seats are nice and comfortable. They're very nondescript. They don't really have any badging or logos on them. For a 340, I would have liked to have seen a little added something. However, of course, not the end of the world, and the M3 does cure that issue. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a backseat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2016 BMW 340i xDrive, and a couple of things to note back here. First of all, I do have a 12-volt outlet as well as my own heated seats and climate control vents on this 95-degree day. It's very nice to have cool AC, albeit it's blowing at my kneecap, but it is blowing nevertheless. I do also get a center console in here with two pop-out clamshell cup holders. Headroom is decent. I'm starting to touch the ceiling a little bit with some of my little hairs, but not the end of the world if I slouch down a little bit, which, let's be honest, is how I mostly sit. It's not an issue. Legroom is pretty good as well. I do have speakers on the door. I have these seat back net pockets, and overall, I think this is a really, really comfy back seat. Let's go hop around back. We'll take a quick look at the trunk, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, so around the back of the BMW 340i xDrive, pop it open here, and you do get a pretty decent sized trunk. Nothing really to write home about. However, it is a good, nice, full-size sedan trunk. Ward uses this for his detailing business. He's able to fit everything plus some in the trunk, which is just fantastic. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and the owner Ward has done a couple of things, added a lip, added side skirt extensions and things like that. This doesn't look quite what a normal stock 340 would look like, but it is pretty dang close. And honestly, I really love the look of it. I love all BMW looks from this era. I think the styling at BMW was really, really proper at this point, and overall, I love the angles of it. I love the proportions of it. I don't think it looks too wonky or lanky in any sort of direction, which is fantastic. But now let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think of the 2016 BMW 340i xDrive? Well, I really genuinely love this car, and let me tell you why. I recently drove the BMW M3 competition. Fantastic car. I mean, really such a good car. Wasn't a huge fan of the manual shifter. I liked that it was manual, but the overall feeling of it wasn't quite what I expected. But that's okay. That car was awesome, and I would love to own one. However, owning one of those is getting ever so more tricky. When I drove that car, it was listed for sale for about $70,000. That's right, $70,000 for an M3 competition and manual. Now that's a great car, it really is. But this car you can find for much, much less than $70,000. And while stock for stock, an M3 competition is way better than a 340, this car has been slightly modified, and honestly, the line starts to get blurred. The acceleration test should be proof of that. This feels as quick, if not, actually, this feels quicker, honestly, than the M3. This comes in all-wheel drive, where the F80 M3 didn't. The new one does, but not the F80. And with some bolt-ons and add-ons and adjustments here and there, this can be just as fun, if not more fun, than a stock M3, and you didn't pay $70,000. These currently go for anywhere between $30,000 to $40,000. That's half the price for way more than half the fun. So no, this isn't an M3. However, I would argue that it's just as fun as an M3 when modified for way less price. And something I want to share is that how easy it is. This is all bolt-ons and a tune. It's not that crazy. And yet here we are. Huge thank you to Ward for letting me take out his 340i. Ward has his own detailing business. He's detailed everything from daily drivers up to today's most cutting edge exotics. I can't recommend him enough. If you're in the Chicagoland area and are in need of a detail, Ward is the man to go to. He's absolutely awesome, and this is his 340i, and I'm very thankful that he let me take it out. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.